In my first preliminary, The Other Side, my approach was more subtle and psychologically driven. The narrative focused on a confined domestic setting using a baby monitor to create restricted narration and build tension through what isn't fully seen. Instead of a visible threat, I created unease through small disturbances, mainly through sounds such as audio glitches or a creaking door. My cinematography relied mostly on static shots, reflecting the fixed perspective of the monitor, while my editing was slow and continuous, using simple cuts to move the story forward rather than constructing meaning. In my third preliminary playback, my approach developed further into psychological storytelling. The narrative used a phone recording to create restricted narration, building tension through what is partially revealed rather than directly shown. Later, instead of a visible threat, the focus shifted to an unseen presence with unease created through sound and repetition. My cinematography remained controlled and minimal, while my editing began to emphasize pacing and ambiguity, allowing tension to emerge through atmosphere rather than action. In my final product, this development becomes much more refined. For example, when Aina first encounters the figure at the crime scene and attempts to photograph it, the figure disappears with the camera flash. This moment uses visual disruption and absence to create tension, shifting the threat from physical to psychological. My cinematography became far more intentional, for example, using low-key lighting and negative space to isolate the character. I also incorporated visual motifs such as mirrors and the camera to symbolize distorted perception and identity fragmentation. The strongest example of my development is the mirror confrontation scene. Here, Aina comes face to face with the figure as she realizes her reflection no longer follows her movements and instead acts independently, revealing the presence as a manifestation of her own distorted mind. This scene is significant both visually and symbolically, representing how the psychological threat gradually overpowers her. From a technical perspective, it required precise editing to ensure the reflection and the real character performed different actions smoothly within the same frame, despite challenges such as camera instability and lighting inconsistencies. My editing developed from basic continuity to a more expressive psychological style. I used flash cuts, pacing, and discontinuity to reflect Aina's mental state, with the camera flash acting as a transition to reinforce fragmented perception. Sound design also became more layered, combining diegetic elements like footsteps and breathing with non-diegetic ambient sound and silence to build tension and immerse the audience in her psychological experience. The final shot really reinforces this psychological narrative. The empty room, red lighting, and abandoned camera suggest that Aina has been completely consumed by the presence. The sudden appearance of the hand taking the camera introduces ambiguity, acting as an enigma code, leaving the audience questioning what happened. Overall, I have progressed from using basic techniques to developing a more sophisticated understanding of how cinematography, editing, sound, and symbolism can work together to construct meaning. This allowed me to create a more immersive and psychologically driven narrative that aligns strongly with the conventions of the thriller genre.